Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is from the incredible mind of TSGMTX from over on Reddit No Sleep. And as ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story. Entitled Cackling in the Darkness. Let's get straight into that. There's something strangely serene yet haunting about being in pitch black wilderness. Deer season in the panhandle of Texas means you're awake early and in a position before light even just barely begins to turn the sky from an empty void to the deep purples and reds of a beautiful sunrise, wearing layers to help fight off the freezing cold winds that seem to penetrate down into your bones, while you're doing your best to keep your teeth from chattering, and using the dream of that perfect buck is just another layer of warmth to keep your focus. The risk versus reward always seems a little lopsided, as I shivered uncontrollably. I was always an early bird when it came to hunting. The sun wouldn't rise for a couple of hours when I arrived at my hunting grounds. This was perfect. Plenty of time to make my way down to this particular game trail that led to the river, splitting this valley down the middle. The night vision scope on my rifle was as good as one could hope for when it came to navigating under the new moon. I had learned my lesson and got some big rubber boots to wear in the water. It was cold enough without my feet being soaked in the shallow but frigid stream. And sitting on the muddy bank, I took my hiking boots off and tied them to my backpack, slipping on the rubber boots and taking extra care not to trip in the sticky mud. I carefully made my way against the current for a couple 100 yards. Minimizing sound isn't easy when every splash from your footsteps feels like a thundering crash. And there was one particular spot that I wanted to place my container of doe estrus scent. After some trial and error, I realized that the harsh winds blowing down in the valley for quite a way was something I could use to my advantage, maximizing the distribution of the scent and thus maximizing the potential for drawing in some nice bucks that only have one thing on their mind at this time of year. I'd seen plenty of bucks chasing after a doe and always chuckled at the fact that he didn't have to catch up to her, he just needed to keep up. That hormone-fueled tunnel vision is what I was counting on. The water was used like a highway for nearly every animal around here. The grass on the valley floor, sometimes towering over me, and I'm 6 foot tall, combined with the various debris of fallen trees and cactus, made even the animals think twice about walking through it unless they absolutely needed to. The hundreds of footprints, varying from a few minutes to a few days old, had confirmed that theory for me. The wind would carry the scent and channel it along the water. Old Bucky McDearface would catch that aroma and would be powerless to resist the temptation. Upon reaching the spot I wanted, confirming through my scope that I was at the right place, I poured out the estrus. Gosh, does that stuff stink. Get it on your hands or clothes and you're not going to have a fun time. Now it was time to walk back to the way I came, climb out the water, switch back into my hiking boots and begin the trek to my overlook where the sight was unmatched. I was proud of my little hide, 110 yards from where I sat to the muddy bank where I deployed the scent, according to my rangefinder. Situated between some boulders, I was somewhat shielded from the pelting wind. The line of sight was clear, and so there was little worry about missing anything. Ascending the steep hill was a taxing endeavour, mostly because there were 2 hills to get over before I would be in my place. As I walked, I periodically scanned my rifle around me, using the night vision to keep myself on track, but also trying to get an idea of what was around me. Sometimes the infrared illuminator, attached to the scope, would pick up on some eyes shining at me, only visible through the small screen, carefully covered to prevent showing too much light. Usually, it was a deer or coyote, and occasionally a pack of coyotes likely doing the same thing that I was doing, surveying the land to begin the hunt. Or at least they knew to keep their distance. Discouraging the curious with a bullet through the brain was plenty to make sure they left me alone after the last time I had found one of the pack getting too close for comfort. Once I was in place, there wasn't really any practical way to sneak up on me. Between the steep decline to the bottom of the hill and the loose gravel going up the hill at my back, I felt pretty safe. After what felt like an eternity of slowly making my way to the spot, I could finally take a minute to catch my breath and then squeeze tightly between the boulders and do my best to stay awake until I'd legally be allowed to take a shot. Staring through the scope, I could clearly see the river about 100 yards beyond it in a fairly wide area, thanks to the range of the IR light. Anything that fell in range of the light was what I considered a safe shot. Close enough to ensure a clean kill, but far enough not to be spotted. It was after about maybe 15 minutes of waiting that I heard an odd sound. It almost sounded like a laugh or some kind of gibberish, but I couldn't be right. I was the only person out here, and so what made that sound? Coyotes didn't sound like that, their barks and yelps often being heard a long way off. No way was it a deer either, at least not any deer that could be found around here. It put me on edge a little, but I tried to rationalize whatever it may or may not have been. A few minutes later, and it happened again, this time more clear. Like a hyena making that laughing sound. No hyenas around here, at least I thought so. Trying to get over being jittery, I just kept looking through the scope. It would be a while longer until it was light enough to shoot, but that's when I saw the eyes looking at me, down on the bank of the edge of the tall grass. I didn't move a muscle, and neither did I, until another set of eyes just blinked into existence. Behind me there was a noise. Oddly enough, there was a voice that sounded like a baby Groot. That small kind of scratchy voice, but it was entirely unintelligible. I took a deep breath and held it, trying to will the wind to quieten down so I could listen closely. There was another small sound that may be something akin to a reply to that other voice. This got me nervous. Two sets of eyes locked on me down below, and two distinct sounds behind me, up the hill and over the crest a little. Now, this is a good time to say that the rifle I had with me was an AR-15, with 2 full mags and a pistol in my backpack with 2 mags as well. I had 60 rounds of 5.56mm and 30 rounds of 9mm. Why so much for hunting? Because I can, and I felt like it. Plain and simple. Throwing a good-sized bowie knife in safety from any animal felt like the least of my problems. Anyway, attached to my rifle was a laser light designator. The laser was green, and in a visible spectrum of light with a range of over 600 yards when used in the dark. More than a few times I had used it to mess with a raccoon or possum, to pass the time. Seeing them scurry after the green dot is quality entertainment. It also worked well as a deterrent if I got the chance to put the dot into the eye. Not to do any permanent damage. I'm not a cruel person, but just enough to give whatever creature it might be the chance to go away if needed. I say all this to explain what I was about to do. As the minutes were passing, I could hear the little voices growing louder and more diverse behind me. At least 4 different voices now. Down below, at the edge of the grass, were 3 more sets of eyes. That made 5 of varying heights that I could make out in my scope. None of them seemed very tall, and with the biggest being about maybe 3 feet, judging by the height of the grass down there. They never wavered in the slightest despite moving left or right a few feet. This felt like it was getting out of hand. I was being closed in on from behind. And given the steep gradients of the hill, I didn't really have anywhere to go. I had to try something. Anything to try and get away safely. That's where the laser came in. I didn't want to shoot unless I had to, because it was still too dark. I wasn't wanting to risk explaining to this random game warden that just happened to hear the shot, unless I could clearly prove that whatever I shot was in self-defense. I might be looking at a heavy fine for taking an animal before shooting ours. With the consequences in my mind, I slid my left hand forward and found the button to activate the laser. In the darkness, a bright green dot flared to life, and I carefully moved it towards one of the eyes. As soon as the laser blended with the shine of the eye, a horrendous scream filled the air. It made me jump because it was so loud. Then the screaming started from behind me. All of these things were in unison, and it was deafening. Then at once they stopped, and the valley fell quiet again. Maybe 30 seconds went by when I heard a tap next to me. It sounded like a small rock hitting one of the boulders, then another and another. They started streaming in, bouncing off the rocks and feeling them land on my legs and back. Luckily, because of the cold, I had multiple layers on that kept me from feeling anything worse than light thuds. Nonetheless, it was terrifying. These things were hurling rocks in a torrent. I took a deep breath and prepared for part 2 of my brilliant plan. I held my rifle in a death grip and stood up as fast as I could, bringing the scope to my eye and turning my face to the top of the hill. I couldn't see anything other than the rocks briefly flashing in the infrared as they launched up in high arcs in my direction. Thinking this was either a good idea or a bad one, I charged up the hill, stumbling over rocks and brush but never taking my eye off the scope. Out of breath, but at least at the crest, I hit the button for the light and looked everywhere as I tried to find whatever was throwing rocks. Everything went dead still for a moment. Scanning left and right, forward and back, I searched frantically, but saw nothing. And seeing the path I had used to get up there, I took off in a careful jog, doing my best not to fall. And from behind me, the screaming and the rocks began again. After finding what looked like a good spot for cover, I made myself as small as possible and took up aim up the hill. Rocks pinged around me, some bouncing off of my rifle and some bouncing off of my head. I was waiting to see some eyes because I was putting a bullet directly between them, but no eyes showed. Finding no targets, I went back to getting the hell out of there. The screams turned into maniacal cackling that reminded me of the critters from the movie Gremlins, and that was plenty of motivation to keep me running. Eventually the rocks stopped, but the laughs, they continued. They followed me all the way back to my truck. The last glimpse I got when I cranked the engine and the headlights pierced the blackness. There's 9 pairs of eyes reflecting from just inside the grass and brush. After making sure I hadn't left anything behind, I shifted into drive and smashed the gas, spinning the wheel and sending a spray of gravel in their direction. Whether they flew far enough to hit them, I didn't know, but it made me feel better as I sped down the road and tried to comprehend what just happened. Whatever they were, they felt predatory and moved extremely fast, and coupled that with their ability to coordinate, and suddenly the hunter became the hunted. Wow. Certainly another one. Wow. Chest pounding, absolutely intriguing story there for the incredible mind of TSGMTX from over on Reddit, No Sleep. Big thank you TS for allowing me to narrate your story on the show. Certainly absolutely nail-biting action there, and you presented the remoteness of that location superbly. Of course, I hope you enjoyed this narration, and look forward to more of your work in the future. Well, guys and girls as ever, you know the drill. Please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. Now if you can pen a story packing that much punch, then please do get in touch with me at the contact email, which is as on screen. contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope you're all well and happy and fighting fit, and looking forward to lots of summertime adventures with friends and family. But above all guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.